Welcome everybody on this wonderful Friday afternoon to another edition of Ask the Patent Professor, where we feature amazing creative inventors that have actually changed the world with their idea. Sometimes they're complex ideas, sometimes they're simple problems that the inventors face themselves. So in a moment, I'm going to tell you about our guest today, Nancy Tedeschi. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to rap about myself. How's that? So here goes. When a new idea pops in your brain, call the patent professor. That's my name. The patent office says your idea is not new. That's just red tape for me to cut through. I'm a law school professor, an engineer too. I think math is fun and patents are cool. So there you have it. That's about me. Thank you, Nancy. Now our guest today is Nancy Tedeschi. She's the inventor of the Snapit Screw, the easiest and quickest eyeglass repair kit out there. You simply drop the screw in the hinge, screw it down, and then you snap the end off. Nancy didn't set out to create an eyeglass repair kit. Like most inventors, necessity is the mother of invention. So she was trying to solve a problem she had for herself and found the existing solutions. They were long, they were difficult, it was cumbersome. It took 25 frustrating minutes to replace the screw, and that triggered the idea for her product. The Snapit screw is sold at Walmart, Office Depot, Ace Hardware, Pep Boys of all places. We'll get into that, and all kinds of online retailers. I will let you take it from here.
Okay, so Snapit was invented because, well, actually, I probably should give you a little of my background because it is not any background in screws or engineering or anything like that. I actually have a degree in biochemistry, but I was originally a mortgage originator, and I lived in upstate New York, and I did that for a couple of years and was asked by a bank in New York City to open up an office branch for them up in the county that I lived in outside of Albany, New York. And I took on the challenge, and after the first year, I had originated from my office over $300 million worth of loans. And they're like, oh my God, so they had me open a couple more. And a couple years later, the market took the downturn, and they came to my office and let me go because they couldn't afford to pay me anymore. And at that point in time, I thought that my life was over. It was like I was making real good money. I had a good living. And then, I had all these people I had hired, and, so I was crushed. But the crushment of that moment made me think that I built this empire for somebody else, and I will never do that again. So that was the day that I became an entrepreneur, was the day that happened to me, because I had put all my hard work into it and never ever saw it coming, because 2 weeks before it happened, I had gotten an outstanding performance review. So you never think when you're doing that well at a job that something could happen, that all of a sudden you're not going to have a job. Well, it happened. And so I thought about what to do with my life at that time. So when you're a mortgage banker, you have to get title insurance every time you write a mortgage. So I had been using the same title company for many years, and all those loans I was writing every year, this guy was getting all the business from me. Well, he was getting ready to retire. And I went to him and I said, hey, you want to sell me your business? And he laughed at me and he said, how can I sell you my business? You don't know anything about title insurance. And I said, you're right, but I can learn. So I ended up going to work for him for free. He trained me in every aspect of title, to plotting, to whatever. I know how to read title, plot title. I wrote title insurance for over 20 years. The lawyers from the underwriting companies would have me down there and train me. So that was when my career really took off as an entrepreneur. So I had that title company for 20 years and ended up giving it to my employees, because that when I had the title insurance is when this idea came of the Snapit Screw into my head. So I was actually doing Snapit on the side and running my title insurance business full time. So that's how the evolution of my business came.
So you're not new to going into a completely brand new industry that you know nothing about, learning it and then excelling at it. Like that's, as you said, you were not in the eyeglass repair industry or had any background in that at all. You're just an inventor. Actually, before you were an inventor, you're just a consumer who had noticed a problem with trying to repair eyeglasses, and you addressed it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I do have the video now, so let me give it another shot, and we will. So.
Has this ever happened to you?
There it is.
Your glasses come apart. You try to repair them, but those tiny screws drive you crazy. They're easy to lose, hard to pick up, and so short, they're almost impossible to thread. Well, kiss that frustration goodbye. Introducing the revolutionary new Snapit Eyeglass Repair Kit. Snapit's one-of-a-kind screws have a unique feeder length that makes repairs fast and easy. Simply line up the frame, push in the feeder tab, tighten the screw, then snap off the tab. So simple you'll want them today.
Snap.
These ingenious Snapit screws recently took first place in the National Invention contest and have been praised by opticians and retailers around the world as revolutionary. Until today, Snapit screws have only been available to members of the optical industry. But through this special offer, you will now have the same incredible Snapit screws the professionals use. Let's face it, traditional repair kits are frustrating and can waste your time. But with Snapit's patent-pending screws, you'll have your glasses fixed in no time, so you can get back to doing the things you love. Each kit comes with a screwdriver and 5 different sized, easy-to-use screws that will fix most glasses. Stripped from trying to fix your glasses with the other guy's screws? No problem. Snapit screws are made of durable stainless steel, which allows you to fix even stripped or cross-threaded hinges. Spring-loaded hinges are also a snap to fix. Just use the feeder tab to move the spring back into place, drop in the screw, tighten, then snap it. You're done. Order online today.
Amazing. So
Thanks.
tell us gosh, there's so much I want to ask you, but let's start with the story behind this video and the story behind the product itself.
So my mom broke her glasses, and she was about 80 at the time. And she had asked me to fix her glasses. And, I said, sure, I'll fix them. Mm-hmm. Well, little did I know, an hour later, I was sitting there trying to fix her glasses. And I'm like, it just drove me crazy. I was raised that there was always a way to do something. Even if somebody said no, my mom is very, very handy. She was the one that actually did the construction work in our house and all of that. So you watched my mother was before her time, but she always would say that if you said no, I don't know how, she said, figure it out, So after she gave me these glasses, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I just started thinking about it, and I came up with the idea. And at the time, I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I said, well, what's the first thing? So Google. What do you do when you have an idea, right? So the first thing I needed to do was get it on paper and get it protected. And so I actually Googled my way through the process on how to do it. And believe me, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone anymore. I mean, I stumbled a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like if someone crosses the street and says that I didn't look both ways, but I made it across, so looking both ways is not a big deal. And the people that know better are saying, hey, wait a minute, you're just extremely lucky. So I advise clients, inventors, to be very careful when you use Google, because you might type in terms that give the idea away.
Right.
So, luckily that didn't happen for you, because you not only got a patent, you have patents throughout the world.
I do. I have patents everywhere. And Japan, China, all through Europe. I have the EPO. I have Australia, Canada, Mexico, I have 5 in the United States on this little screw. India, Philippines, just any place that was industrialized, Would I do that again? No, I've learned a lot there.
But how did, the fact that you have 5 patents on one product is something that as patent attorneys, we're constantly advising inventors that to get a portfolio, that's what really gets you more bulletproof protection, because one patent is great, but to really create value for a possible sale of your business and for investors, if you can create what sometimes is called a patent web, so that it really makes it harder for others to get around. So that's
that's very smart advice, because my first patent turned out to be the worst one of all of them. As far as the claims went, they were not as specific as they went. So we did divisionals and CIPs. So yeah, as you get more into the project, you see more of it, then you have to expand, your patent portfolio just to cover all the bases.
Right. And that was smart on your part, because you do have to, in order to expand your patent, and you probably know this from your divisionals, which is a type of continuation application, and a CIP, which is a continuation in part application. We'll go into these terms later for our viewers. Every Friday we have a Ask the Patent Professor, and sometimes we have Q&A. So I will be going over continuation applications. But the trick is you have to file for more protection before the first one becomes issued. So in order to get that earliest filing date. So I'm glad you're able to do that. And then you just continued. It's like passing the torch from one patent to the next as you keep getting broader protection.
Correct.
Yeah. Well,
I had somebody that was very good at advising me. So I was lucky that, and I had a patent agent who was a guy who worked for GE for 30 years as a patent agent over there. And he was local in my neighborhood. And so it was nice that, he educated me on, I know that language now. I know the patent language. It's not, it's like learning a different language, patent law or just patents in general. It's like, they're very confusing. And I still to this day, with all my patents, can tell you that I don't know maybe 10% of the knowledge that there is to know about patents. They're just...
Well, you had me when you said CIP, because that's a term that usually patent attorneys use. So it's short for continuation in part, but when we use the terms every day, it's a mouthful, continuation in part. So we just abbreviate it. It's unusual to have inventors use that term because they don't use it every day. But I guess with 5 patents just in the United States and patents all over the world, essentially. Gosh, I heard India, I heard Japan, so that really helps. And that was, do you have investors that kind of looked at that, or have you basically self-funded the idea? Yep.
Never borrowed a dime on any of my businesses. I've always, and I've been blessed in the sense that it just so happens that, like with my screw, there's 2 avenues to profitability. One is the optical industry, and the other one is the retail market. So that opticians who fix our glasses every day, I won an optical award from the Optical Association of the United States because my screw was the biggest evolution in a screw in over 50 years. So they used to do exactly what I was doing with my mom's glasses and taking those little screws, but they would take pliers or whatever to hold the screws to get them into the glasses. None of them ever thought of developing this screw. They all thought about the tools to hold the screw.
Right.
So they needed somebody from the outside to come in to look at it in a whole different way that they were all looking at it. So that portion of the revenue I started with was I went to a distributor who distributed to the opticians like accessories like nose pads and cleaning solutions and stuff. I went to them and sat down and met with one, and I was there the first day, and I didn't even know what I was going to ask for. I just knew that I was frustrated, and it was so hard to get it on the market, but I knew that this company was pretty big, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell them I want $100 grand, and I want, they can have the exclusivity, and then I want to be the manufacturer. So I'm still going to make money buying the screws. So I'm having them manufactured, and so I mark them up to them, and then they sell them. And I sat down and said that, and they said, okay.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there going, what? Okay. So what ended up happening was they actually were the exclusive distributor only in the United States for my screw. Okay. And they distributed it and ordered all the screws for me. And I had my screws manufactured over in China. So I was just really the middleman. What would happen was they would place a PO with me. I would place a PO with China, and China would send the goods directly to them. So all I did was POs and invoices, and I didn't have to touch any of it. And after 2 years of them being my exclusive distributor, they ended up they got bought out by SLR, which is the largest lens company in the world, out of France. And then I licensed my US rights to them after my distribution agreement expired, and I got over 7 figures up front, and I get a pretty healthy,
wow.
I get a pretty healthy royalty now.
So like I'm saying, you're using so many legal terms that I'm just going to pause real quick and just explain them for our viewers. Like, cause you're so experienced at this, the terms like licensing, royalties, like what is all this stuff? So, and exclusive rights. So real quickly, and I'm going to, like, you know, patent rights, you can think of it as almost a pie, and you have different slices. And that's what Nancy is talking about. So when she has a US patent, that is one slice of rights that she has. So she was able to license, which means give permission to a company specifically to sell in the United States. But then she also has, as you heard before, patents all over the world, and she can separately earn royalties, and royalties are basically a payment. So generally they're a percentage of sales, and she can get that from, you know, say France, if she has one, and she has a patent in Japan, she could, and these can all be separate companies. Now you can even have licenses in the United States, multiple licenses. You could license optometrists, for example, like professionals, and one company would have the exclusive rights to sell to the industry, and then you could have others that have a license for directly to consumer.
That's exactly what I did.
Oh, okay, yep, and that's
when I licensed my product, I licensed only the optical rights to them, and I retained the retail rights. So so they actually go into all the optometrists and all those places, but I get to go into the Walmarts and the Giant Eagles and all of that. So I retained my rights to the retail portion of my patents
and that
in the US.
Being, a great decision for you, because now you can go, you know, when it sells at Walmart, the industry doesn't get any royalties from that. They don't make anything off of that because those are rights you retained.
Correct.
But by the same token, you know, but you can't sell to optometrists directly because you.
No, but I actually have a really strong relationship with the people who licensed it from me. Mm-hmm. And if I could get into one where they're not in, I just call them and we work it out. So I have a very healthy relationship with them.
Okay. Yeah, no, that ends up being very helpful because, are they the ones that helped introduce you to foreign markets? How did you get, like, for a lot of viewers here, they're like, oh my God, selling the United States is a hurdle. Like, how is she selling all over the world? Like, how did
You're going to love it. LinkedIn. I hired a guy, I met a guy who over in London, and through LinkedIn, we started chatting. And the next place I went was to Europe. I now have an office in London, and I have a guy who runs my office in London. He's my partner. I gave him 50% of the business.
In London?
In London, and he handles all of Europe. But our office is, he lives in outside of London, and our office is in a town called Essex. And so he works full time over there now. We have a warehouse over there, and we ship over there from there. And I decided what I was going to try and do is duplicate exactly what I did in the US. So I would start with the U.S. and then go to Europe and then go to China. That's another conversation we'll have this hopefully today. So that was my strategy on getting it to the world, was one avenue, one area at a time. So I was able to not work as hard in the U.S. because I had somebody else doing most of the work there. And then go, I've been to Europe many times, but I don't have to go anymore. But I was there like at least once a month for a couple of years, you know, going to trade shows and all of that stuff and setting up the office over there. So.
Right. Wow. So that's amazing. So have you seen I mean, is it exciting to be, when you go overseas, have you seen your product on store shelves? And
oh yeah, and I was on QVC over there, and yeah, and I've seen
in Europe.
Yeah, I was in QVC in Europe, and I've been on HSN here in the United States. But yeah, the first time I ever saw it on the shelf was at was it? I think it was Walmart was the first time I ever saw it on the shelf. And yeah, that was a pivotal moment because of the difficulty in getting to where I was at that time. I mean, the frustration of just the whole process and learning it on my own without really, I didn't have a mentor or anyone. I was just, you know, winging it, to say the least. You know, I guess I have a little bit of tenacity to try and figure it out. But yeah, the moment that I saw it on the shelf was very gratifying. I have a picture of it when my sister was with me, and she was taking a picture of me while I saw it.
It brings back memories. My book, Escaping the Gray, the first time I saw it at Barnes and Noble, I know that feeling, because it's like, hey, this thing started just like your idea. It started in my mind, and here it is. And you know, Barnes and Noble stores like throughout the United States, throughout the world. The same thing with yours, like that. You're thinking, gosh, I had a problem myself repairing eyeglasses, and I came up with this solution. And I'm not even from the industry. I'm speaking from your behalf. You're not even in the eyeglass industry. Did you face? Did you have any self-doubt? And I think you say you have tenacity, but also it takes a lot of guts to approach an industry and say, hey, you know what? I'm not from your industry, but I've got an idea that's going to change your industry, and that your industry did not think of, but I did. I mean, that's.
It was actually kind of, like I told you, I've won many awards. I was up for an award in Dubai. I won an award in Australia. I won awards around the world too, not only just my patents there, but for the most part, I was received very nicely. I mean, there are companies out there that wanted to rip me off, you know, but other than the greed that's involved in it, the opticians were, I mean, fascinated. I remember when we launched at Vision Expo in New York City at the Javits Center, people were, because the company that I went with had sent out marketing materials before the show, they were actually literally waiting in line to see it. And I was there watching it. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating because we have all kinds of inventors on our show here, but an inventor that really started from nothing and is not in the industry and created something. In fact, we didn't talk about this, but the video I showed at the beginning, that's not a paid actress in the video, is it?
No, that's my mother. We hired her for the day, and she did so well. That was like one take. I was lucky enough to have a friend who was in the produce commercials, and he shot it for me for next to nothing. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, wow. And because she's a natural, I even hear her at one point, and we'll talk about the name and how you came up with the name, but at one point in the commercial, your mom says snap as she's struggling with the old system.
And that was all ad-lib too. That was not planned. She did it right on her own.
Oh, wow. Well, so tell me, was Snapit Screw the first name that you were considering, or did you consider others as well?
No, it was Snapit. It was the first name that I came up with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was,
so sometimes, I'm always, I do trademark law as well. So I'm always fascinated by the names of products. Sometimes you don't get the name right at the beginning. and a product undergoes some changes, like, you know, WD-40, for example. The story goes that it's the 40th formula. It stands for water displacement formula. It's this oil lubricant you spray, and they started with water displacement formula 1, and then they improved it, and then formula 2, and then formula 3. And it wasn't until the 40th attempt that they got it right.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's a great story.
That's where that WD-40 comes from. But you hit it with the name. You hit it, and it's just very memorable. You know, Snapit Screw. And as we saw in the video, that's exactly what happens. The screw is way longer than it needs to be for the glasses. So after you put it through, the additional part just literally snaps off, just like the name.
Yep, just snap it.
Yeah, the Snapit Screw Eyeglass Repair Kit. So I know you've probably made your share of mistakes along the way as well. It's very helpful for new inventors to hear about the mistakes as well as the successes. So tell us about something that you wish you would have done differently with this product.
Well, it's, you know, there's a gazillion things. I mean, I like to tell people that there is a gazillion things I would have done differently, and I would advise other people to do differently, but I wouldn't trade my experience for the world because of the knowledge that I got from it. But, you know, I had put this, this is a true story. I was sitting at my desk and my glasses broke. And I had put my kit away because I was so frustrated. I hadn't touched it for 6 months. It just sat in my closet. And because it was just the hardest thing to do. You know, I was doubting myself and I just didn't know what to do anymore. So I was sitting at my desk one day and my glasses broke. And I went, oh. So I went in my closet, I got the screws and I fixed my glasses. And 10 seconds later, I'm working again. And I'm thinking to myself, that was just, it's too good to sit in the closet. You know,
wow.
And I try to tell people that, you know, the idea is the easy part. I mean, that's the simplest part of the whole venture, is coming up with your idea. Well, you know, and people get so enamored by their ideas, they don't realize what's coming ahead of them. And that's what happened to me. And from the patent process to, you know, getting in front of the right people to, you get in front of the right people and then they say yes and they don't ever get back to you. And it's just a bunch of different stories. I don't know if you know who Stephen Key is, but he's a writer. I met him at the first trade show that I ever did, and that was in 2010. And we were in Minnesota. It was a small trade show, and he was the keynote speaker. And at the end, we all had our little booth set up with all the new inventions and stuff. And he came over to me and he saw it and he goes, wow, that's a great idea. Who are you going to license it to? And I said, I'm not going to license it. I'm going to take it to the market myself. And he looked at me and he goes, you're crazy. That's what he said to me. You're crazy. Now, at that point in time, I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. You're crazy.
Right.
But, you know, now come full circle, had I had it to do over again, I would have probably licensed it in the beginning. And now I'm in Stephen Key's books that he writes. He tells my story a lot because, you know, when somebody tells you you're crazy, that's their industry of what they do. I didn't think I was crazy. You know, I thought, oh, this will be easy. I got a great product. Why can't I get it out there quickly?
That's what, when you say tenacity, that's what inventors need to have, because they're going to hear you're crazy a lot. If you're new, especially if you're from outside the industry. So we're almost out of time. So I do want to have you talk really briefly, guys. We're extremely lucky to have Nancy here because she's one of these inventors that has just more ideas than time to pursue them. But she has launched a completely new business, and hopefully we'll have Nancy come back and talk about her success there. Give us a teaser, Nancy, for next time.
Okay, well, I design my own fashion clothes now. They're sports fashion, and I've turned them into a pretty successful business in a very short amount of time. So it's bellabellasports.com, and I'd love to come back and share with you how that all came about and where I'm at with it and how I manufacture it and what's going on.
We'd love to hear hear that as well, because as you said, the experience with Snapit Screw, yes, you've made mistakes, but you've learned a lot. And I remember that there's a famous quote by John Ruskin that says, in the end, it doesn't matter much what you know or what you believe or what you think. The only thing that matters is what you do. And what I admire about your story is that despite hearing you're crazy and despite being from outside the industry, you kept pushing forward and pursuing your idea. Granted, you put it aside for 6 months when the going got tough, but it didn't stay aside. I mean, the first time you broke your glasses again, you realized that you were onto something. So,
yeah, one of the things that I would like to end with is in one of the most important lessons that I learned as an inventor. A lot of times we try to hire people to come in and do a job that we should be doing ourselves. Do not give up control of what you're doing and how you're doing it, because a lot of times I would give my sales jobs to somebody else, and they weren't as passionate about my product as I am. So the passion comes within yourself, and don't give away that control, because once you lose that control, your passion gets gone with it, and you don't have the forefront to move forward. Yeah,
that's phenomenal advice. And one of the reasons why in my practice, the inventors that I love working with are the small startups and individual inventors, because they still have that passion. Once Bill Gates becomes Microsoft and is this huge corporate organization, I think some of that passion of the original inventor is gone. But I know one quick announcement, and then I promise everyone's zoomed out these days because of so many meetings. So I do promise that we end on time. But on October 28th to October 30th, I'm hosting a free 3-day virtual summit for inventors. So if you want to mark that date. And then finally, next Friday, we'll be hearing from the inventor of Crit Ear, Susan Hansen. And she'll be joining. She has an in-ear noise protection device specifically for dogs. So we're going to be speaking with her. For now, Nancy, I can't be more of a pleasure to have you here. I promise we'll have you back. We want to hear more about your clothing line because you've learned a lot of lessons from the Snapit Screw that you have used to launch your second business, which is already wildly successful, and you believe it's going to even surpass the Snapit Screw in terms of potential.
I do. I do. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.